Next on Sunday Square Off.
Goldwater indirectly may be costing the taxpayers of Glendale lots of money.
Glendale has a $200 million deal to prevent the Phoenix Coyotes from leaving the valley. But the Goldwater Institute stands in the way, and many people are asking, who made them the boss? We'll ask our newsmaker guest, Goldwater's top executive. Plus, the cost of going to college is going up next year, but by how much?
We believe allow us to maintain enrollment in those programs, to maintain quality in those programs. And this year, if those are not approved, we will cap the enrollment in those schools.
The governor wants to cut $170 million from higher ed, but the university regents believe tuition hikes are a last resort. Will the school presidents go along? Also,
all right, folks, we are going into a closed caucus.
Are Scott Bungard's problems creating a women problem for his fellow Republicans? Sunday Square Off starts now. And good morning and welcome to Sunday Square Off. I'm Brahm Resnik. Just weeks from now, one of the Valley's pro sports teams could toss its gear into a moving van and leave the desert for good. On the ice, the NHL's Phoenix Coyotes are fighting for a spot in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Off the ice, there is a war over the team's future in Glendale and the $200 million the city wants to give the team's buyer. But what's at stake here is larger than a hockey team. If the Coyotes leave, the city of Glendale warns a financial crisis will follow. If the Coyotes stay under current terms, the Goldwater Institute contends the city will have broken the law and put taxpayers at risk. The two sides apparently now at a standoff. NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman warning last week that time is running out, and it seems this time he really means it. Joining us now, my newsmaker guest, Darcy Olsen, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Goldwater Institute, and the woman Gary Bettman labeled an obstructionist. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
So, are you an obstructionist?
Well, you know, I love hockey. Phoenix is full of hockey fans, and we'd love to keep the Coyotes here, but it just can't be done on the backs of taxpayers. The Arizona Constitution has a ban on giving public money to private interests, and in this case, the taxpayers of Glendale would be essentially buying the Coyotes for a rich Chicago tycoon, and we contend that's unconstitutional.
So obstructionist, yes or no?
Well, you know, if the law is in the way, I guess so.
Okay, and you have threatened to sue, and you know, here's what Bettman must be thinking as he assesses this. You know, he's probably thinking to himself, maybe this deal breaks the law, maybe it doesn't. But what's probably driving him nuts is he doesn't believe you're going to sue.
Well, you know, we would love to make a decision on that. And in fact, we've been in court with Glendale for over a year and a half trying to get the documents related to these deals. And in fact, the court had to order Glendale to release public documents that you should be able to get as a journalist or any member of the public. And just in the last 7 days, we've finally gotten more than 750 pages of documents, leasing arrangements, all related to this deal. So we're going through them as quickly as we can to make a determination. But I have to tell you, Brahm, at this point, when everything that we've looked like, it looks like a duck, it walks like a duck. So the last question is, does it talk like a duck? And if it does, we will be sure to prevent Glendale from breaking the law.
Okay, but Bettman's a smart man. He's a CEO of a big corporation. He's also a lawyer. He looks at Goldwater Institute and he says, these guys don't have the money to sue. They can't go ahead with a big, expensive lawsuit like this.
Well, you know, that is what cities always count on. That's where the expression, you can't fight City Hall, comes from.
But this would be a big case for you guys, bigger probably than one you've ever taken on.
Not at all. In fact, about a year ago, we had to sue the city of Phoenix in a very similar situation where Phoenix wanted to give $100 million taxpayer dollars to a developer also from Chicago, but this time it was to build a mall north of Phoenix. And the other case that we have that's huge right now is we have one of the leading national cases fighting the Obamacare healthcare reforms, which is much bigger
than this. This is bigger in terms of repercussions, perhaps, but in the sense of what's involved in litigating this case, it seems you would need a lot of experts on both sides to challenge each other's claims, to challenge what, you know, the way they view the contracts. I mean, isn't that the case?
Well, it's a big case, and I certainly think that they announced that they were going to sue us a week ago, and they didn't sue. And then we learned yesterday from one of the city councilmen that the city did not, in fact, take a public vote to sue, that they are not ready yet to do that. And so we do believe that that was a bullying technique, sort of a try to scare us off this case. But Brahm, that's why the Goldwater Institute exists. Our members expect us to defend the rule of law so that we can go up against cities like this who try to push their way around and avoid the law.
Here's something else Bettman and others might be seeing. In a lot of ways, Goldwater is the mouse that roared. Let's take a look at your tax filings with the IRS over the last few years, and they show some bumps. Your revenue increased from about $1 million in 05 to $3.3 million in 07, fell back to $2.4 million in 09, and Goldwater had a $140,000 deficit in 2009. And I should add, all this information is available online, guidestar.org. Goldwater has to file it because it's a nonprofit. That's hardly the balance sheet of a deep-pocketed law firm that can take on a big case.
Believe me, we're ready to take on this case. And I don't want to go into the accounting here, but we weren't actually running a deficit, and it wasn't actually a big drop. What happened in the years where we had a big bump up was we got a huge endowment gift. So the next year, you wouldn't expect to repeat that. And what we did is we had more money in a prior year, so we drew that down. Nonprofit accounting is a little bit different than corporate accounting. So just to let you know that we are actually on a growth trajectory. We, about 8 years ago, we had 50 supporters at the Goldwater Institute. Today we have over 2,000 across the country.
Okay, and in Canada, a lot of viewers are going to be thinking, what about that? A lot of I did get a lot of questions on Twitter for this interview. A lot of fans out there, people want to know, how much money have you received from Canada over the last 6 to 12 months?
I am not aware of a penny coming in from Canada.
Not a single penny?
No, not a single penny that I know of. Now, we do have a lot of people like you, Canadian Americans, who live here who support the Goldwater Institute because they like our fight for limited government and free enterprise.
Let's talk again about that legal case. Bob Robb writing on azcentral.com, and Bob is a big defender of the gift clause. This is probably the only positive word you have heard out of the Arizona Republic over the last few months. He agrees you have a winning argument, but it's probably not winnable in court, he says. And that's the other thing that drives Bettman mad. Again, might be a great argument, but take this to court, who knows what's going to happen, right?
Well, look, they keep coming to us and saying, can we negotiate a different deal? Excuse me. And our response is, well, when did the Constitution become negotiable? It's not necessarily about the amount of money here, it's the principle. And in this case, we've looked at everything very thoroughly. And again, we are still reviewing more documents, but it looks to be a case of taxpayers buying this team for this Chicago tycoon. And Brahm, if I could say one other thing for the taxpayers of Glendale, I mean, these folks, we've been getting letters and calls and emails. This is a city that's closing public parks, that is closing the pools, that is furloughed state employees, that has a debt that is 3 times the national average of a city of its size, and they're trying to go further into debt to buy a hockey team and neglecting the basic core needs of their citizens.
And what many would say, I've heard from them, is that's all true, and yet opposing this deal in some ways might kill the patient.
Well, that's the claim, but let's talk about this. Every year since the Coyotes have been in Phoenix, they have lost money. Last year was a $40 million loss. In general, sports franchises do not increase the wealth of the area that they are in. And there's no reason to believe that getting a new owner who thinks we simply need, quote, a few tweaks is going to turn this around for Glendale.
But let's go back to the taxpayers, because you say you're protecting the taxpayers' interests. Do you believe Glendale's claim, and make taxpayers' claims, that things will get worse if this team leaves? I mean, isn't that just inevitable?
I don't think there's any, there's no reason to believe that is the case. I
mean, you don't believe the $500 million number they're throwing out, or that if this team leaves, a whole new tax burden will shift to taxpayers?
Well, I think the way that it's been examined is not very realistic. People are basically saying it's either this deal or nothing, and we're going to have an empty arena. And we know that there are concerts and other things. There are a lot of arenas across.
They're losing 40 dates a year. That's a lot of business.
That's true, but there are a lot of arenas across the country that don't have like a host tenant, and they manage just fine. The other thing is, just right now they're talking about putting in a casino on that same sort of patch of land in that area, and casinos historically do make profits, and certainly more than a loss of $40 million a year, Brahm. So the city needs to get creative. If we want to keep the Coyotes here, what we need to do is find someone who's willing to put his private money on the table, buy the team, and that's a win-win because we keep the Coyotes and we respect the law.
Okay, I want to end with kind of trying to look at the end here. The other side looks at this as a business deal. Clearly you don't. Have you been offered any money to settle this by anybody on the other side of the table, the NHL, Matt Halsizer, the city of Glendale?
No, we haven't been offered any money, and we certainly wouldn't take any.
You have not received any financial inducements from anybody on the other side?
No, absolutely not. The Institute doesn't receive any more than 5% of its funding from any single person, and that
I'm not talking about accepting, I'm talking about being offered.
No, we have neither been offered money nor accepted any money related to this case.
So what would it take, under what circumstances could you see saying, we will not sue?
We will not sue if the deal abides by the law.
If the deal abides by the law, and that will take a lot of work in your eyes.
Well, yes, because right now this deal.
And if it doesn't abide by the law, will you definitely sue?
The likelihood of us suing, if this is what we think it is 99%.
99%. You will go ahead with a lawsuit.
If it is what we think. Like I said, we got 750 pages of documents in the last 6 or 7 days.
Is that the final document dump?
We asked Glendale to confirm that for us 2 days ago. They haven't replied, so we still don't know. So it's been a little difficult to know. We hope so. We think we're getting to the bottom of it, but we need confirmation from Glendale that they have, in fact, provided everything.
Can this be negotiated to an end?
Is the Constitution negotiable?
And you don't believe it is?
When has against the law been negotiable?
Okay. Darcy Olsen, CEO of the Goldwater Institute, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Ma'am.
All right. And when we come back, our panel steps in to discuss the coming cuts to higher ed. The Board of Regents says raising tuition is a last resort, so where will $170 million in cuts come from? And what to do with Senate Majority Leader Scott Bungard. His story changes yet again. Is Bungard's problem becoming a women problem for the GOP?